Yes.
Yeah, there's a few more. All right. Yeah.
Actually, this whole thing is an exercise. I can put a chair there. You're gonna let me. Don may not let me. It's back of my head in the camera. We're good. Okay. So I need to make this announcement before we start that if you are or anybody you know is, and you can tell them, having anything to do with the two different things. One is our Friday holiday store at Fall Hamilton School. Then Fall Hamilton says, and I get it's for security purposes, being school and small children, you have to go through the sign up portal. So there's a link to that in the bulletin, which is also on the website, or you can tell me to send it to you, whatever we need to do. But if you're thinking about Fall Hamilton for any portion of the day on Friday, you've got to be on the Sign Up Genius because that's how they're printing out their badges based on that, the names, and that's what they're telling us as of this morning. So anyway, got to let that be known. And then if you're doing either day for Norman Binkley for the gift wrapping, or somebody in your family is, or you've been thinking about it, first one's tomorrow, daytime 1 to 5. Now that's just come and go as you can. Doesn't stay for 30 minutes, stay for the whole time, doesn't matter. But 1 to 5 tomorrow, and then Tuesday night from 6 to 9. Also Tuesday night, we're probably gonna have a pizza party there, so we'll feed everybody that's coming. So Tuesday night, 6 to 9 for any portion that you could be there. Here's the announcement: it's not at Norman Binkley. We thought it was. They changed that on us today, and it is at the Southminster Presbyterian Church, which is just right here on the corner of Harding and Danby. And so,
I got to change my topic now. We got
yeah.
It's a good opening into what we're going to talk about tonight. So,
Tuesday night because you got something going on at church over at Southminster Presbyterian. But anyway, that's an important thing to know. So note that if you or anybody you know needs to know that. There you go. Thanks.
All right. Well, that may fit in a little bit, actually, Andy. Hope everybody is well. We're down to our last, what do we call it, quarter plus? And I told Andy that's because between he and I talking so much, we needed the extra month is what that was. Andy and I have been to breakfast and lunch together all at one time. That's so, right, yeah, all at one time. So, it took a minute too. Yeah, no joke. No joke. We have, yeah. We have. We can talk a lot. But this is, oh, yeah. But anyway, it's good. Hope everybody. Yeah. We're still here, and that's right. Yeah. But anyway, it's good to be with everybody. This will be, we're wrapping this up, our talk on faith and challenges to a real world, issues we deal with and all of that. This will be my last time, especially because I won't be here probably next week, Andy, so you definitely have to teach or figure that out. I didn't let you know that ahead of time, but I think you were going to anyway. But I've enjoyed this, and the topic tonight is going to bring some of all of these together in a weird kind of way. So stick with me. Plus, I've got a splitting headache, so speaking in tongues is still a biblical topic right here. So bear with me while we try to make sense of all this. We're going to talk a little bit about this holiday season, right? Challenges we face, not necessarily struggles in faith, but some of this is topics we've talked about. And I think we don't talk about some of these things sometimes. And this has come up through several reasons, some in conversation, some in recommendations, and some because of this little book, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Has anybody been to see this movie yet? It's a movie. Is it like us, one of those you wanted to go to? This started the thing about Christmas. I read this with our 12-year-old together. And I'll get into that in a second. But it made me think, because one of the comments she had and questions was, why don't we do a Christmas pageant? Why don't we talk about Christmas? My friend does this, or this one does this at their church. And we're kind of, I think, afraid to talk that. It's not the entirety of our topic tonight, but kind of that's one of the little things. But when I say challenges that maybe you don't face, but during the holiday season, what are some of the first things that comes to mind? Nothing? Holidays are a piece of cake for everybody but me? Sure, man, this is going to be a long class. Huh? Family. The good and the bad of family, right? Yeah, that's all good. Our faith is encouraging and good too. It's not just all the bad. Family, right? And that all different kind of things that come with it. Elaborate on family a little bit, because I've shared some of mine before in class, and I got a whole lot more I can talk about that. So. Yeah. Do you see the world the same right way? Mm-hmm. Do you live in the same geographic location? Mm-hmm. Are your in-laws in different places? Right. Mm-hmm. Right. All of that. Grandparents, a million dynamics. Yeah, it is. Celebrate. Oh yeah, yeah. May drive. So all types of opportunities to come together or go. Exactly. And then the joy and the not so much joy of when you're actually all together. Right? Let's be honest. So your family, definitely one of the things. Anybody else?
What you feel you can talk about and better not talk about.
Better not talk about. Yes.
With some family member that you see
mm-hmm.
once or twice a year at the most, and you want to make sure it's good.
Right. Yeah. There's a next Christmas. Everybody can get back together again when it's over. Yeah. Is it okay to dread that? Be nervous about that? It's not. You're not a bad Christian if you do. It's normal. It's normal. Um, Family, getting together, all those dynamics. Anybody else? Overwhelmed? We had a class about that a couple weeks. I don't know about you. Christmas is 2 weeks from today. And man, how did that happen, right? Got a lot to do with planning, shopping, all those kind of stuff. You know, you guys, everybody read with your kids what is it, Llama Llama Holodrama? You guys know that? Yeah, that's what it feels like right now, right? Yeah. If you haven't read it, check it out. Yeah, Llama Llama Holodrama is a fitting thing. What about anybody else? Before I have a couple other throw out.
How much its emphasis would draw versus repel, depending on who you're talking
mm-hmm.
to. Is it offensive to somebody? Is it
right?
Want to be a good neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and that's a shame because our culture has made it that way.
Right. It is. No, it is. No doubt about it. Anybody else? Not your struggle, but anybody else you know during the holiday time.
If you had a parent that died during the holiday season,
loss and grief and parent. I was too young to remember my grandmother. My father's mother died Christmas Eve. I was a year and a half, something like that, I believe. So I never, we got the one little gift left that my grandmother I never met gave us. The little Dre sits in a little rocking chair, actually. But my dad, that's why Christmas was such a big deal. Because he went to totally, some people look, here's my whole, don't acknowledge Christmas, don't do anything, I'm not going anywhere, don't talk about, that's one thing. My dad went all the way over to like, boom, like it was just, you couldn't do it any bigger. But that's why, and he told me later in life, that's because I didn't want you to ever feel that grief that I felt. I never wanted that to show, was the way he told me that. And so that's how I grew up. Like Christmas is like, whoo, man. But that's why, Christmas Eve, and he was always, I didn't realize till I was much older what a fight he was going through to do that. And he kind of, as you get older and you see, well, my dad got quiet all of a sudden for the past hour. Well, that's when it hit him, what was going on. So that's a huge thing. In fact, that's one of the things I came across, and I'll read a little bit about that, but that's a huge deal. The grief, loneliness, right? Loneliness, that's a big deal. Not even necessarily tied to that, but somebody's lost somebody. Maybe you have an older parent that the other one's not there anymore, or people that are just can't be together. I mean, there's all kinds of things that go with that. So definitely a big challenge. Anybody else?
especially when different people within the same family unit are dealing with said grief.
All the same way, right? Yeah. Everybody's got yeah. That's a different thing, and that's hard to do because maybe you need to talk about it. Maybe you need to acknowledge it. Maybe you need to deal with it. But again, getting back to that way over here, don't acknowledge that it's that time of year or whatever. So that's got to be hard, right?
look forward to the downtime.
Mhm.
For the past couple of years, it doesn't seem to ever happen.
Well, that's what I was just getting ready to ask. I live with you. When does that happen? We haven't got to the downtime yet. Yeah. We've been trying that for 3 years now, right? Yeah. No, it's hard. I mean, literally, maybe you guys, like, it's Christmas night, everything's done, everybody's going to bed. It's like, wow, what happened? Have you ever felt that? Like, whew, what happened? Definitely. Definitely. Anything else? I jump into another one I want to talk about a little bit, and we'll move on to some of those in a little more detail. And to get back to this book, what about acknowledging Christmas and talking about it as a Christian, including our church? Andy can get fired. I can talk about this stuff. I don't care. So I'm going to talk about it. Acknowledging, yeah. I don't. Well, my dad was a preacher. And my dad always just like, why don't we talk? And I get it. I'm not challenging that. It's just, we can sing Joy to the World in July when it's 100 degrees out, but you can't sing it the month of December, right? I mean, even though it was based on Psalm 98 written by Isaac Watt, it wasn't a Christmas song to him, right? It didn't happen for, 80 years later it became a Christmas song, whatever. Yeah, we can't do that. But what happens? How do we deal with that when we're dealing with maybe, I don't know, you want to pick a denomination, but we don't want to look like the Catholics, right? That's what I was always told when I was a kid. We can't look like that, or the Church of England, all these, all those that celebrate in a different way. The Orthodox is, the denomination, and now it's becoming more of the kind of quote unquote community church. But what about those that don't even do that? How do we handle that? Has that ever been a challenge to anybody else, or just me? What about any teachers in the room?
May I tell you, this afternoon when I first started teaching at the tutorial, which is a Christian tutorial, when it came time for holiday time, we were all told specifically do not have anything with Santa Claus on it or talk about Santa Claus because it was some of the families that went the other way of, no, that's Jesus' birthday. And there's like this, which I always am not comfortable with because I feel like it cheapens it, but it was like like birthday party for Jesus. But then you have the other where it's you don't talk about religion either. I mean, we do that, but public school teachers, I'm not sure. They used to be Christmas parties, but I think they're called winter holiday
Winter, yeah, something.
or something like that. I don't know. Not all
Ooh.
schools are Christmas.
That's increasingly a challenge. And I don't know how to say this right, so everybody knows me. They know I don't mean this to sound that way myself. That's our Church of Christ doctrine of we can't talk about that. Does that make sense? I don't mean to be offensive in but I mean, that's how I grew up. I don't mean to offend, or everybody knows where I'm coming from when I say that, at least. Why do we do that? I mean, because everybody I ask, they agree. I get it. I'd love to sing Joy to the World in December, but we can't. But then we get to this, what's the total other extreme? Like, how do we balance with that as Christians? And the reason, you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, it just always seems, as I get older, it seems like there's this mismatch of the time that people are most receptive to hear about Jesus is the time that we're least likely to talk about it.
That's what I've got an issue with. It's like we're avoiding that opportunity right now. Do you ever feel that way? I mean, I've done that. I'll just be real honest. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about baby Jesus' birth. I mean, it happened, but I don't know that it was December 25th,
Well, how about let's talk about it out there?
Yeah, yeah. Don't talk about it in
We
here.
should be talking about it out there, but
Right.
not in here.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Oh, no, I've heard that too. Like I said, my dad was a priest.
And there's a ditch. Where do you drive? You drive in the road.
Right.
Well, most of us
Mm-hmm.
drive in the road.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
I've heard something about it.
Yeah.
And there's a ditch on both sides of the road.
Right.
And so much in our consideration of who we are as Christians and the church and its representation to a world needs to, in my opinion, remember there's a ditch on both sides of the road.
Exactly.
And you don't want to drive in either ditch.
Right.
Just keep it in the road.
Right.
Now, that means different things depending on what our subject is.
Right.
What does it mean to keep it in a row? But the avoidance of unnecessary extremity, which would cause an issue.
Right.
But your comment about when people may be most receptive, there are people that are thinking about it or understanding
Right.
that even if they're not thinking about it, they understand people are talking about it.
Or I might come back this Christmas just to see what church is like.
So Dad used to say, and if you think it's difficult, and it is, I'm not saying it's not, it is, and there's more days to consider than just the Sunday closest to Christmas that can make it difficult. I was going to make the joke that if you think it's difficult for out there, try being the guy having to figure out what can I say on Sunday the 24th.
Exactly. You've only done the Joshua marching around the wall so many times on December 24th, right? Yeah.
How much can I say? If
Right.
I don't say anything, this set of people are upset with me. If I say anything, this set of people are upset with me. And if I don't get a perfect split, everybody else is upset.
Exactly.
What can I say?
Right.
And so and you get that around Easter Sunday
Mm-hmm.
too.
Oh yeah.
And you get that around Christmas, and there could be some. Bill and I laugh about the difference in a Mother's Day sermon and a Father's Day sermon.
Oh yeah, that's always comical actually from the audience when you guys handle that too. Yeah, that's good.
Mother's Day sermon is supposed to be warm, fuzzy, soft. Mothers and motherhood are the greatest thing on earth, which they are.
Right,
but,
sure.
But did I get that right?
That's right.
And we're supposed to bash the fathers
That's
for
right.
not leading correctly.
Yeah. Well, you and Bill don't want to get up and talk about how wonderful you are in front of everybody. Is that what it is? Is the father? No, but we do. I get that.
But that used to give them the what.
Right.
Go ahead and give them the what, but make sure you give them the so what.
Right. Exactly.
Otherwise, see what makes it poor is when it's a special focus. This Sunday is extra special.
Exactly.
More special than the previous Sunday and next Sunday.
Right.
Because this is the Sunday. No, it's not.
Right.
Because this is Easter Sunday. This day is more. No, it's not.
Right.
But it is a Sunday, and if somebody's mind's on that aspect, go ahead and give them the what, just as long as you give them the so what.
Right.
And a lot of the so what will direct their minds to the rest of the year.
That's a perfect summary of that, because I get the balance and all that. But to not acknowledge and to talk is just like, what's wrong with you? Right? So almost, I mean, does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, it does to a visitor who maybe that's why they're there. Let's be real blunt. I've got friends, I'm sure you do too. Easter Sunday, midnight mass. I've got plenty of friends who do midnight mass, or Christmas Day. There's services. That's the only time they go near a church building.
So I'm over here wrestling with not getting to either ditch, and I can't find my way.
Oh, it's hard for us to stay out of the ditches, Chris. Yeah.
Is this recording? I mean, do we want to go all the way?
Yeah.
There aren't that many people.
Hey, it's my last class. Andy didn't ask me to teach again with him, so I don't care. Yeah, I tell you. So, no.
It seems that all of this is connected to the same root cause. Like everything's about root cause identification.
Right.
And this isn't meant to rip the church down or rip anything down, but if we're going to actually, like, we're trying
Let's
to
talk
go
about
there,
it. Yeah. It's a challenge. That's what we're talking about. Real challenges. Yeah.
Is this even remotely disconnected from the idea that we're going to rank order sins, homosexuality,
Right, exactly.
Right, is here. So it's all connected to our own insecurity and unwillingness to just let it all be and let Jesus speak and take the opportunities given to us and go with that instead of everything. So it's almost like, no. We're so good all year long. We're not going to acknowledge you people who only come here on C&E.
Right.
And we're not going to yield to that. We're not going to give that. So we're going to hold this over you.
Right.
We're saying that, but that's effectively
the
mentality, the root cause mentality behind it.
Right.
Instead of capitalizing on it and saying, and this is the neon light day, like this is the Super Bowl day.
Right.
To open up and potentially find people who this is very well might be the day that they're ready to really open their heart.
Right.
But they've heard all this stuff, and they're not going here, but they're going to go to that church over there that has all the Christmas lights and all of that stuff. They're not going here because those guys are not going to do Christmas because of X, Y, and Z. Like,
Right.
I think if we want to psychoanalyze it,
No.
all the way into that.
And that's why I brought this up. And again, getting back to your very good summation of it, we're afraid to make it that special day by not acknowledging that, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah, you're right. We're here for our reason, whether it's, June 1st or December 25th or whatever day that Sunday falls on. But it's like Chris says something they don't know. This is why I want to read this. Yeah, they do the photos of Santa. I mean, we do that here. I think that's a wonderful thing. We've been doing that, with the kids. It's great. And I know there's a lot from the community that come here or those that don't come on a regular basis, maybe. I think it's a great thing. And we say the word Santa. That's what it's called, isn't it? I don't know. They changed the name. Yeah, something. I mean, exactly. Let me read this little bit. I thought this was a new movie, this Best Christmas Pageant Ever. I just thought that was a new movie. This is a book. It's very old. It's from 1972, which so am I. So that's why I feel really old when I saw the story. Great book, vintage year here. But I thought it was a newer story. But we picked this up because we always like to read the books before we do the movies. And we grabbed this. And like I said, I was reading with Zoe. And I'm just going to read a couple little snippets. But two comments she made about this is what this has been kind of kicking around in my mind of why don't we talk about this? So this book, if you're not familiar with the movie, there's this family that actually the kids are the family essentially. And horrible kids, you think of juvenile delinquents, all these kind of things. This is the summation of them. The Herdmans are the little kids' names. Ralph, Imogene, Leroy, Claude, Ollie, and Gladys. Six skinny, stringy-haired kids, all alike except for being different sizes and having different black and blue places where they clonked each other. Okay, so that's kind of them. Never been to church before. Okay, never been to church. They went to church because one of the little kids told them that they had food there, right? So they started showing up for Sunday school because they could get cakes and donuts. That's why the little kids started coming to the church. And then there's a Christmas pageant. It's not a Church of Christ, if you gather. They do a Christmas pageant every year. And it's mostly littler kids, and they, stand around and somebody narrates is kind of the gist of it. But these little kids that have never been this and are going for the food kind of work their way into being all the lead characters for this thing. Now, this is chapter 4. The 2 chapters between this are all the people in the church in an uproar because these little kids that everybody knows are the little horrible kids and family of the town or had the lead parts in the pageant. And by keeping them out, this one nearly brought both the 12-year-old and myself to tears. The mother who kind of takes on the pageant and runs it, I think it was a 5-year-old kid at whatever this church they go, certain Sunday after Sunday school, the kids come up every now and then and talk about what they love about church or Sunday school, and they go through the whole thing. The littlest kid of this family that's running the pageant, his favorite part of Sunday school was that the Herdmans weren't there. Got up and told the whole church. That was his favorite part because these kids abused everybody at school. He got beat up every time he went to school by one of the Herdmans. That was his favorite part of Sunday school, is that the Herdmans weren't there. Okay? And then the other chapters about it were about all the parents. These kids got it from somewhere, why they didn't want them there and why they didn't get to lead. So Zoe, we didn't understand why. How could people not want kids there? And that's the basis of this. And like I said, these kids end up running the pageant and all the key parts of it. But here were some questions as they started going through the Luke 2. Well, it's combined, it's Luke 2 and the Matthew 2. Who are shepherds? Where do they come from? What's an inn? Let's see, what else are in here? They don't. Here's, I like this quote. They don't even know what the Bible school, but what the Christmas story is. All they ever know about Christmas is how to make ornaments out of aluminum foil at school, right? But these are the kind of questions these kids are asking that we never stop about. Joseph and Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. One of the little Herdman kids yelled out pregnant. And there's a couple of pages about how you're not supposed to acknowledge that Mary was pregnant. It's kind of weird saying that. Just great with child is more appropriate, right? We don't think about that. I mean, really, you don't think about these things. It's not polite to talk about Mary being pregnant. She was great with child. But it's all these things that they go through as the mother who's running the pageant. She's just reading from the Bible. These kids have never heard of it. Those are their questions. What's an inn? What's a manger? Why didn't Joseph tell the innkeeper she was pregnant? What's wrong with him? Fair enough question, right? What's the manger? Why did they have a bed in the barn? No, that's the point. They didn't have a bed in the barn, so they had to use whatever was there. To which Imogene said, it was kind of like when we put Gladys in the bureau drawer, but it's a different. What are the wadded up clothes? I don't know what you're talking about. The swaddling clothes, right? So then there's this definition of this. You mean they tied him up and put him in a feed box? Where was child welfare? All right? Yeah, right? The angel of the Lord, the glory of the Lord shone around him, and the girl yells out, Shazam. Like the comic book character, the lights around. It's what these kids are coming from. What about the wise men? Are they like school teachers? No, it means like the President of the United States. Mother looks surprised and pleased because they're starting to figure it out. She said maybe they'll get there in time to tell the innkeeper to get the baby out of the barn. Right? That's what the wise men were showing up for. Right? These are the kind of things. Then gets into a description of King Herod too, and how cheap the kings were by bringing just oil. A bunch of cheap kings showing up with presents. Right? All this kind of stuff. We never stop and think about. Right? I mean, I remember we were doing the they were doing the evangelism class a few years ago, and I forgot who it was that told us. There was this teacher in Metro. Said they just said the word named Jesus one day. The kid never heard it. What are you talking about? I mean, even the kids that didn't go to church and were the bad kids when I was growing up and knew about God and Jesus at least. They didn't acknowledge it. They didn't live right. They didn't go to church, but they'd heard it. That's where this is the herdmans and all this. Here's how it sums up. They would have thought the Christmas story came right out of FBI files. They wanted a bloody end to Herod. They were worried about Mary having a baby in a barn, and they called the wise men a bunch of dirty spies. They left wondering whether Joseph should have set fire to the inn or just chased the innkeeper to the next country. And then the rest of the story is about everybody getting it, right? The pageant was a little bit different. Because the kids took ownership of what they were understanding of this Christmas story from their minds. They didn't bring Frank, they brought a ham, right? Things like that. It's kind of interesting story. I'd love to go see the movie. But I never thought about that kind of stuff, and it brought a million questions with the daughter when we were reading to this. One is, why don't we talk about it? Obviously, why don't we talk about Christmas? Don't have a pageant. We had to, an explanation of that and all that. But that's how the kids found out about Jesus, was the reply. And that gets back to the comment, are we supposed to say, well, no, December 25th isn't actually Jesus' birthday?
But there are people that really believe that.
I know.
I mean, he actually did that. He will show you where you know that.
Exactly.
I really thought when we get to heaven, when we ask Jesus what his
Right.
birthday is, he's going to say, does it really matter?
There you go.
I was just
But
the only thing that matters is that I was.
right. But do we go, no, I agree with you, but do we go to the other, does that need to be our first reply to them? I mean, that's what I feel like is we're afraid to acknowledge that day. I agree with you 100%. But will we do that? Yeah, you're right. But do we go around saying, whoa, world, you got it wrong?
That was not my point. But
No, I know it was. I'm just saying, but I feel like that's why we don't acknowledge it. Right.
I know, I really do feel for ministers because, like Andy said, you're gonna make somebody mad.
Oh, yeah.
That's any given Sunday probably.
No, it is.
And I just my brother-in-law's been a minister.
No, it is. It's just stressful.
My brother-in-law's been a minister.
Yeah.
I remember his last Sunday at his congregation.
Mm-hmm.
I sat there and cried because I know what had happened to him.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is what people are like.
That's what. Oh, see, I'm a preacher's kid. I get it. I get that. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it from him. Like, he got to a stage in his life, he knew he was dying. He did. Yeah, we're going to talk about it, right? That's what I say. You've heard me say in this class. If it'll help you get to heaven, I'll talk about it. Much to the chagrin of elders and ministers. I'll tell you what I've done wrong, what I think about this, and then let's get this out and read it and make sure we're all right. I'll talk. We're afraid to do that sometimes. But this is a great time of year to do that, right? I saw you. Is it your hand or?
Yeah, just in keeping with what everybody's saying, we've got to be careful not to become the Pharisees and the Sadducees, where we're so consumed with everything being followed exactly the way they, all the details, they miss the point. And I agree with Susan. It's like the date does not matter.
Right.
Now, do I think we need to have a birthday cake and party hats and call it Jesus' birthday? No. But I don't think we should be afraid to talk about Jesus in December.
Jesus used the phrase of those who would strain at a gnat and swallow a camel.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea.
Right.
Strain over the gnat, swallow the camel.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the gnat of this ditch or that ditch, and sitting in the road begging to be driven
Mm-hmm.
is the idea of the so what.
Right. Right.
So.
And I think that's where we stop short of that opportunity for the so what. I guess it's kind of the purpose of me doing it. Didn't think, Tom, reading these questions from these kids, that, granted this is a work of fiction, but it's true. There's stuff, there's kids that don't know. There's those kind of questions. And Zoe in our conversation, who's 12, it's like, I never really thought about that. I don't know what, but here's what it is. We talk about our holidays. Okay, let's get away from, when the actual date was kind of thing for a second. All right, our Savior had a bad Christmas, right? Born in the manger, nobody wanted him, right? Had to become a refugee right away because some king was trying to kill him, right? Got the cheap gifts, as the kid says. No, we know they're very precious things. I don't mean to make light of, but think about that. Unwanted to the unmarried mother. Think they didn't have faith, Mary and Joseph? We won't even get into all that, right? Oh, yes, but I think we're afraid to talk about that and acknowledge it because we might. Yeah.
Will, I think, exactly nailed what you were wanting to say, is that this time of year, those that did not grow up in the church, who don't know the Bible stories we take for granted and knowing, they're receptive right now to wanting to know that. I know, like, the girls have had friends who are not in church or at any church, don't have any Bible knowledge, and I've had a few students that, when I am blessed to be able to talk about the Bible and God in a classroom, but I've had a few, and I remember one little girl raising her hand. She goes, I don't know about that, but I want to know more. So when we've got those opportunities, it's that missed opportunity. Do we need to have a bunch of Christmas decorations? No, but when there's people who want to know, and sometimes they don't come because they're embarrassed because they don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
We should be able to have that opportunity to at least, explain where Jesus came from.
Right. We'll get to that why Susan was talking. We'll get to the December 25th thing later on, but let's get to that why. Because he was born. Emmanuel, what does that mean? God's with us, right? Okay. There's a purpose for that, right? And it started as a little baby in a manger, right? And the wadded up closes the books, right? Think about that. But we're kind of afraid to. We have to get that opportunity because I don't understand. Maybe there is something to the season. Maybe it's just me because of how I grew up with my dad. Like, there is something different about this time of year. When you get beyond the stress and the thing, right? People do give more. We got the bell ringers, like Salvation Army. I got an affinity for my kids. It was always changing our pockets at Christmas. We're not, call me wrong, call me a sinner. I'll tell you you're wrong. We'll discuss that with the Bible here. My dad always said the Salvation Army saved his life and the Church of Christ saved his soul. And I can tell you a story. I got family out right now that are in the Salvation Army organizing the kettles and ringing bells up in the Northeast. But I've had great conversations with them about this because of that. I don't think she was with me. One of the kids was. I stopped and talked to one of the bell ringers out in front of Hobby Lobby for about 45 minutes one day. All right. Here's why I did that. You know, my dad, I've got the bell, my dad's actual Salvation Army bell. It's at our house as part of the Christmas decoration. But after about 5 minutes, we were talking about this.
Their organization is very much Jesus oriented.
Absolutely. No, trust me, I'm very versed, and I have family, I have cousins that are majors in it, and trust me, I know about it. I'm very. It's we can get into some doctrinal things, but this has led to a lot of great conversations with family and others because of that charitable. They're out this Christmas time of year that we're kind of figuring, as Andy said, we're figuring out where the ditch, like driving the ditch. I got a 4-wheel drive. I'll get back out of it. Right here it is. Let's go. But I think we need to do that. But then you get like Sonia was saying to the other extreme of no, it is boom. It is December 25th. You can't do this. We can't. We go from not being able to talk about baby Jesus on December 25th to not talking about Santa Claus on December 25th. I mean, that's where we have to deal with that sometimes too, right? Right. There you go. That's where I am. That's the way I look at it. But what we have to do is getting back to making sure we're not doing anything to create the barrier where we can't open up. So at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? Because baby Jesus did grow up and he said, here's 2 things to remember. Love God and love your neighbor like yourself, right? Let me sum it all up for you. That's what he said, right? So we got to be able to show our love with that. So looking for the opportunities, I think that's how that balance. How do we do that? Not being able to be afraid to sing "Joy to the World" in December. Are you preaching the Sunday before Christmas? See, I'm going to show up now. Everybody, make sure you're here. Let's see what Andy's going to talk about. Yeah, yeah, that's right. What is it? At least give us a little red tie or something. Oh man.
They asked me to come back and preach that Sunday at Center Chapel where I was before I came to.
That's
They asked me
wonderful.
to preach the Sunday before Christmas at Center
That's
Chapel.
wonderful. That's wonderful. But does that make? I mean, we haven't offended. I mean, everybody knows me at this point. We'll talk. I mean, does that make sense? Am I wrong in this? Because to be honest, you kind of know and everything. But until I read this with Zoe and got the question, she didn't like the light bulb moment. I guess is the you always know it's there. We've always danced around it. We do. What's the place we go to? The assisted living. I always call it on Clover. No, it's where Tracy's mother is.
Clovercroft?
Canterbury.
Oh, Canterbury.
That's why I always want to call it Clover something. It's Canterbury. We take turns. We go the one Sunday we do the Lord's Supper with them and visit a little bit and do a little devotion. I remember last year we did. It was like 2 weeks before Christmas or something like that, and we were there. And my point wasn't something like this where I'm going in, hey, let's talk about Christmas and Jesus and all this kind of stuff. I guess I made some kind of offhand comment and just kind of said something about, the holiday, there's more joy, you feel this, and I don't even remember what it was. But there's a little old, and like all of a sudden, there's like 3 of their little faces just lit up. Right? We acknowledged that there was a little joy. And then there was the one little kind of grumpy old woman in the back. Like I saw her go like this. And I'm like, oh, I know who's got a comment for me when we're done here. Guess where she went to church, by the way. The rest of the story. I'll let you figure it out how she grew up compared to some of the others. But it opened up a conversation, and before it, she said, you're right, I never thought about that. There's a lot of people in here that I could be talking to. And give me a little hug, and off she went. And again, it was just an offhand comment, but I knew as soon as, oh boy, I know who's got the comment when we're done here. But it gets back. Why not? Right? Because as she said, I've got opportunity to talk to people. Right? I think we're afraid, and we shouldn't be.
Here's a thing that's bothered me for years on this, that we already have, and I know it's not true for the Lord's church, the majority of the Lord's church. Now, there's one in that congregation, there's one in that one, there's one in that one. You're going to find them. You get enough people together, they're all human beings, so there's going to be one in every crowd, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That sort of thing. It's not true, but you have to react to what is. People they draw conclusions based on their perception,
Right.
whether it's true or not.
Right.
If they perceive it to be true,
Right.
or want it or need it to be true,
Oh,
so they can
yeah.
have an excuse against you.
Mm-hmm.
Either one. You have to react to what is, whether it should. Someone said, "Well, it shouldn't be that way." Yeah, but it is.
It is.
There is a perception that the more conservative-minded religious groups in the world are sticks in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
And completely sands any joy in their life.
Right.
You would never want to spend any time with them. Who would want to, And so if you know that you're fighting against that already with some, even though you also know it's not true.
Right. Right.
If you know that's the perception, any opportunity in this sense to be very joyful, don't give them any more ammunition.
Right.
They're not going to have a conversation with you if they think that of you. But if you change their mind on what they think of you, they might have a conversation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, just bringing up that same lady, you can kind of see some of the eyes roll from the other. I mean, it's like middle school and that.
Oh yeah, everybody's got their opinion on the old lady.
She comes in, she presents herself as not being approachable or legalistic, and she doesn't have a lot of friends.
And that gets to what you just said. She's the stick in the mud. Here's what this is to let. Don't acknowledge. Don't. She's not. She's going to have a hard time breaking that down that wall to have those conversations, and that's what I guess that's the point. Let's don't be afraid to enjoy our holidays and have the opportunity. Look for the opportunity while we're looking after those that are lonely and are grieving and are in need. Right? It's a stressful financial time of year for people, and all the overwhelming, the schedule, all those kind. Like, let's show a little joy. I can say it because you're the you can't. My dad, he would always get. Sometimes he's like, that's the most miserable bunch of people I've ever seen. And I know we're not at our you can't say that in Indy, but we show up and like, boom, here we are, and we do that at the holidays, and we shouldn't, and we shouldn't be afraid to talk about this. And so I hope that makes sense, and we can enjoy the rest of our 2 weeks. Is that what it is now?
Andy Richter today, we had a luncheon in that room next door today, and Andy Richter walked up, and I don't remember how we got on it, but he said, "You know what? Not so much at work, but I'm going to go ahead and say Merry Christmas."
Yeah,
it's just an example of what we're talking about.
It is, yeah, it really is. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, there's a second bell. I hear people, so I don't want to go over. But thank you all. Go see this movie or read this book. You actually will enjoy it. And it'll make you think different about us and our role. It was just things I never really. Granted, it's a little older and timely, but it's still relevant to us today. So anyway, thank you. I hope everybody has a good rest of your week and a happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I'll say it.
I think the next 2 weeks, 2 or 3, or maybe it doesn't start till. We may be in here next week. We may be in the auditorium. I'll just say that. I can't remember if it.
I think you have one. You teach one more, and then it goes to that. I think is what. Yeah, because I asked them.
Yeah, because the Sunday that we start in there is the 15th. So
Right.
We would go to here until the 18th. So we do that one.
Okay.
For what it's worth, in here we got plenty of good classes. But for what it's worth, in here and starting in January, we're going to do the book of Acts. I'm sorry, book of Mark. Book of Mark. Acts is on Sundays. Mark in here, the Gospel of Mark. So there's that.
And what are they doing on the Sunday topics again?
Sunday topics, we're going to split classes on the 15th and the 22nd. There'll be a men's class and a ladies' class. And on the 15th, Isaac, May, and myself are doing the men's class. On the 22nd, Bill and Tim will do the men's class. So we're splitting it that way. I don't know what we're doing on the 29th. put everybody's in those August 20th, 29th. But 15th, 22nd,